All right, good afternoon. As you may have seen, our Special Envoy for Yemen, Martin Griffiths, just concluded a 2-day visit to Saudi Arabia. In Riyadh, he met with the Saudi Deputy Minister of Defense, Prince Khalid bin Salman, the Yemeni Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed bin Mubarak, and the US Envoy to Yemen, Tim Lenderking, as well as other officials. In his meetings, he discussed the latest developments, including the hostilities in Marib and the prospects of resuming an inclusive political process. Mr. Griffiths further discussed the acute fuel shortages in Ansar Allah-controlled areas and the need for immediate actions to avoid worsening the humanitarian and economic situation. Mr. Griffiths warned that we are seeing an uptick in military hostilities and constant threats to the lives of Yemeni women, men, and children. This must stop, he said. Back here, the Security Council held an open meeting by video conference on Ukraine. Briefing council members, the Undersecretary General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs, Rosemary DiCarlo, said since the Trilateral Contact Group agreed to an indefinite ceasefire that came into force on July of 2020, the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine has reported a significant decrease in civilian casualties and exchange of fire. However, she said that the humanitarian situation has not improved and noted that the pandemic has compounded the difficult socioeconomic. That's okay. That's all right. We have a surprise guest?
They just asked me to do this right now.
Okay, all right. Whatever. Whatever. I know. Who knows? I'm kind of excited. I don't know who's going to pop up. Sorry, we were talking about something important. On Ukraine, Ms. DiCarlo also noted that more than 3.4 million people are still in need of sustained humanitarian assistance. More than half of those in need are women, and 40% are the elderly. That briefing was shared with you. I think they also heard from OSCE officials. Immediately following the council meeting on Ukraine, there'll be a virtual joint stakeout by current EU members of the Security Council, Estonia, France, and Ireland, and former past elected members of the Security Council include Belgium and Germany, and Norway and the United Kingdom will also join. Turning to Haiti, just a quick humanitarian update on the country, given all that is going on. The number of people in need has increased drastically over the past year. As a result, 40% of Haiti's population, that's 40% of 11.4 million, will require humanitarian assistance, and that comes up to 4.4 million people. This considerable increase, as you can imagine, is a consequence of a series of socio-political crises that have significantly impacted existing fragilities and impacted the resilience of the Haitian people. Haitians have also been hit by the spread of the COVID-19 virus and the impact of natural disasters, such as last summer's tropical storm Laura. Insecurity has also increased in the country. This includes kidnappings, clashes between armed gangs leading to civilian deaths, the burning of houses, and the displacement of people. Public demonstrations and strikes have also continued to paralyze basic services. Most schools in Haiti have been closed since the first week of February. However, our colleagues tell us there's indications that schooling may resume next week if the security situation allows. In 2020, 1.4 million people in Haiti were reached with humanitarian assistance through the UN Humanitarian Response Plan, receiving $155.7 million out of the $472 million requested. And on Myanmar, UN Women today says it is strongly concerned over the use of force by security forces against peaceful demonstrators, including women. UN Women also urge all to listen to the voices of Myanmar women. Over the past decade, the agency says that women civil rights organizations of Myanmar have played an essential role in the transition process towards a prosperous and democratic society. They've also been central in advocating for peace and inclusive governance. Today, UN Women stands in solidarity with the women and women's civil society organizations of Myanmar as they seek to exercise their fundamental right to demonstrate peacefully and express their hopes and desires for the future of their country. And you saw yesterday on afternoon or evening, we updated you on Somalia, in which we welcomed the announcement of another summit between the federal government of Somalia and federal member states leaders and their commitment to continue dialogue. The summit is scheduled for 15 February. We call on all Somali leaders to come together in a spirit of goodwill and collaboration in the interest of the Somali people. We also reiterate that dialogue and compromise to forge an inclusive political agreement and the implementation of the September electoral model are essential. A consensus-based agreement is the only way forward. And in South Sudan, the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Sexual Violence and Conflict, Pramila Patten, today called on the government of South Sudan to expedite the operationalization of the African Union Hybrid Court and other transitional justice institutions. Ms. Patten noted that these institutions will send a strong signal that violations, including acts of sexual violence, will not be tolerated and those responsible will be held to account. She noted the important role that survivors of sexual violence and their families have to play in that regard. We had gotten a number of questions this morning about an attack in Afghanistan, and I can tell you that according to our colleagues at the UN mission in Afghanistan, they said the UN family in the country mourns the loss of 5 Afghan security personnel who were killed in an incident in the Sorobi district of Kabul. The UN mission tells us that no UN staff members were hurt in the attack, in which an Afghan security vehicle was escorting a UN convoy. The UN mission is transmitting its condolences to the Afghan authorities, and we expect a statement shortly from them. Our friends at the UN the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, otherwise known as UNRWA, has asked for $1.5 billion to fund its essential services, emergency appeals, and priority projects for this year. This figure includes $806 million for core services such as education, health, relief, and social services, protection and infrastructure, as well as camp improvement. Emergency humanitarian assistance would require another $231 million. To respond to the hardship caused by the conflict in Syria, to Palestine refugees in Syria and Jordan and Lebanon, the agency is seeking $318 million. The emergency appeal includes adjustments that UNRWA makes to its services to prevent the spread of COVID-19 among its population and to address the impact. Quick update on COVID from Rwanda, where we are doing our best to help the government address the pandemic. The UN team led by the resident coordinator, Fode Ndiaye, is supporting national efforts, including with robots. UN Development Program is working with authorities to deploy 8 high-tech robots in the fight against COVID-19. Each of these robots can screen up to 150 people a minute to track fevers and other potential signs of COVID. The robots will also deliver food and medicine to patients. Others use ultraviolet light to clean up and disinfect treatment centers and other places, which can swiftly limit the spread of the virus. In the human realm, the UN team has deployed 150 human staff to support the National COVID-19 Coordination Center in areas including lab oversight, case management, risk communications, counseling, and prevention. From March to January of this year, the UN team has contributed more than $22 million to the response And you may have seen that our colleagues in Ecuador had issued a statement last night congratulating the people of Ecuador on exercising their civic right to vote and for the high voter turnout in Sunday's election. We call on Ecuadorian society, particularly the main political actors involved, to await the announcement of final results by the electoral authorities. The UN team in Ecuador has also called on all candidates and their supporters and citizens to accept the will of the people expressed at the polls, to use institutional challenges, launch any potential challenge. We trust that the electoral authorities will address any existing appeal promptly and with transparency. In a video message, the Secretary General has extended his best wishes to everyone celebrating a lunar New Year. This year, the year of the... Sorry? Du bœuf, or as we say in English, the ox. Exactly. Even people who speak French can celebrate the Lunar New Year. So the year of the ox, which is the same sign as the year of the Secretary General's birth. excuse me. The ox symbolizes energy, strength, and courage. The Secretary General said these qualities are what the world needs now. In 2021, we must stand together to fight the virus, take climate action, and build strong recovery from the pandemic, he stressed. And today is the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, and the Secretary General says that advancing gender equality in science and technology is essential for building a better future. He says during the pandemic, gender inequalities have increased dramatically as women bear the brunt of school closures and working from homes. And we also have a message from UNESCO. And the honor roll officially closes at the end of business today. But we are able to flag that our friends in Vilnius have paid their 2021 regular budget dues, which brings us up to 39. So thank you, Lithuania. And tomorrow we'll give you that cash update we had promised. Mr. Bays.
So something you didn't read out, which I asked about yesterday, which I am told now reliably by member states is happening, is in the GA Hall tomorrow at 10 a.m. There's a meeting of the States Party of the International Criminal Court. I say I get it from member states. There is no press notice about this. There's nothing on the ICC website. It's not a case of the ICC no comment. It's 3 persistent days of calls and all contact to the ICC and no answer. Can you confirm that there's, because it's an important...
No, I agree.
It's a vote for the chief prosecutor. It's the first time it's come to a vote, and clearly it's in the news at the moment. It seems staggering that no one wants to tell us about this meeting.
I will check with the states parties. I have not been advised of any meeting.
One assumes the conference office of the UN, someone has to be asked to have the General Assembly, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah. If you could please give us information about that. And one assumes as it's happening in this building, the media arrangements would be arranged by Mali and the filming arrangements. Back to actual stories, if you don't mind. First on the attack in Afghanistan, where the UN staff were attacked on the road out of Kabul towards Jalalabad. That area of Kabul, Nangarhar, has had Taliban, but it's also had ISIL. Do we know who was responsible?
We do not. We do not hear. We're waiting for our colleagues in the mission to give us a bit more information.
And another question for you, quoting here Axios. The Jewish National Fund is apparently planning this weekend to approve a new policy that will allow the organization, which is a very big organization, as you know, to purchase land in the West Bank for the first time. What's the UN's reaction?
Look, the only thing I've seen is that it's that same report from Axios. We will look into it. I think our stand for a negotiated settlement continues unchanged, as well as our stand against anything that would annex land. But that's just our position. We'll look into if that actually happens and look into the report a little bit further. Edie, and then Mr. Sato.
Thank you, Steph. I'd first like to echo what James said about the ICC. It is a very important vote, and we should be able to get some details of what's happening. Is there an update on the UN efforts to get international staff into Tigray, especially into areas that it hasn't been able to get into previously?
No, we have no positive developments to report. We're continuing to try to break through the logistical and, frankly, the bureaucratic barriers. I mean, we very much welcome what David Beasley was able to obtain, which is a good first step, but we obviously need more to address the tremendous needs of the people in the region.
Does that mean that the 25 international staff that you announced the other day have actually made it into Tigray?
It's not clear at this point, but well, I will check. Mr. Sato.
Thank you, Stéphane. My question is on the Tokyo Olympic Games. Today in Japan, the head of Olympic, head of organizer, Mr. Yoshiro Mori, former Japanese Prime Minister, has decided to resign from his post after being criticized with his remark on women. Is there any comment on that?
Look, I think we can only be shocked by the comments that were made. It is up to the Olympic authorities to decide how to manage their games. But I mean, obviously, on the tone of the remarks, we were all very shocked. Okay, we'll go to the screen. Iftikhar, let's try you.
Thank you, Steph. My question has been asked by James, but I would like to know whether any high official of UN was present in the car that was being escorted.
I have no information on who was in the convoy, but you may want to check with the mission. Okay, Benno.
Hi, Steph. Hi, dear colleagues. I do have a question about, you can remember that panel of experts report on Yemen a few days ago, in which it said that Khalid al-Batafi is arrested. Now he appeared pretty much not arrested in the new video. Can you tell me what this is about and if there was a mistake?
I think, though, as you know, the panel of experts are independent from the Secretary General. You would have to ask them on what basis they had based the information they included in the report.
So is there an address I can, like, to whom do I go, actually?
Just reach out to Fahan. He'll give you the right names of people to talk to. Majid.
Thank you, Stéphane. My question is on Iraq. Now there are official discussion between UNAMI and the Iraqi government and other parties about the role of United Nations in the upcoming elections. And the Iraqi government wants a larger role for the UNAMI in the election. There's a lot of confusion, though, about what is going to be the role of the United Nations in the election process and also verifying the results. What is the latest? Do you know anything about this? What's the UN decided about its role in the elections?
Look,
and can UN actually verify election results in Iraq or in any country?
Look, as a matter of principle, we stand ready to assist member states in running their elections in whatever help they would need. Traditionally, in the past few years, our focus has been on technical help in the preparation, on helping with messaging afterwards, sometimes on coordination of observers. We do not send observers anymore. Well, at least we haven't done so in quite some time. I think the most important thing is that this be an Iraqi-led process in which all of the Iraqi parties feel they have a stake and a trust. We will be there to assist the Iraqis in that effort. Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. Do you have anything in particular about the decision of the United Nations with
no, if I have more, I will share that with you.
Thank you.
Stephanie.
Hi, Stéphane. Thank you. Just a quick question about the elections. So the Secretary General must be aware of it by now. There is a UN employee who decided to launch her own campaign. So I was wondering if you have any reaction to this, and also in terms of like ethics, if there's any problem in terms of an employee running a campaign while being on the UN payroll.
Look, Antonio Guterres is a candidate for the selection process. it's not for him to comment on other people who may want to come forward. This is a process run by member states, so I'm not aware of any issues or problems with that. But again, let me put it this way: I speak for the incumbent candidate, but we have no comment on anyone else who may wish to put their hat in the proverbial ring.
Thank you.
Speaking of selection process, unless I see another question, I will go to my friend Brendan, who will be delighted to speak about the selection process. Oh, sorry, I apologize. Mr. Errol has a question, and then Toby, and then I'll throw it to you, Brendan. Go ahead, Errol, and then we'll go to Toby.
Thank you, Stéphane. There is a story that's going on for months now, and from time to time really pick up the headlines. And it's regarding migrants in Western Balkan coming through Bosnia, going to European Union, and they are stopped on the border of Croatia, which is of course member of the European Union, and severely beaten according to many reports. So what is the position of Secretary General on this, and does he feel that he needs to appeal to any of these governments to treat migrants more humanely?
Well, you know, this is something that was raised yesterday at the briefing. We flagged what the International Organization for Migration said, which was raising their concern about exactly what you're talking about, the way migrants and refugees, would-be refugees, are being treated at the border of the European Union or the border of other states in the Balkans. Violence is unacceptable. Treating migrants or refugees without the dignity and respect that every human being deserves is unacceptable. We are seeing very tough conditions given the weather and the time of the year in that area. There was the case of the camp in Bosnia-Herzegovina. It is incumbent on every member state to live up to the responsibility they have, and the moral responsibility that we all have in terms of human solidarity. And we would urge member states to follow the call issued by the International Organization for Migration yesterday.
Just a quick, it's a very comprehensive response. Thank you very much. Does the Secretary General feels like the former head of the UNHCR or so, and now head of the United Nations, to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, stop treating those migrants?
Look, this is an issue that comes up regularly in his contacts, and he continues to speak out about it publicly and privately. Toby.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steph. Just three quick questions. First is, who is the UN staff who has named themselves a candidate for the SG? I didn't hear about that. That's one. Number two is, do you have any more detail about how the socio-political crises are actually affecting the humanitarian needs in Haiti? Just a little bit more detail there about how that works. And then the third one is a question I asked you earlier. On February 19th, when the U.S. is set to rejoin, when their rejoining of the Paris Accord comes into effect, does that happen with the international dateline, or does that happen according to GMT? What is the actual timing of that?
Toby, and I feel for you. I understand your interest in exact timings, but I can't give you an exact time. No, I know you work across many time zones. I think we can assume it's on the 19th, whenever the 19th falls, wherever you may be. There is no. I'm not aware of any specific time date. So let's just let's keep it general and on the 19th. On your first question, again, I speak for one candidate. I would encourage you to use the Google machine or call your colleague Stéphane. I'm sure she can give you the name of the person. Thirdly, on the socioeconomic impact of Haiti, you know, whenever you have in Haiti a kind of a perfect storm of continuing challenges from climate, with the storms that have been hitting, the fact that the country's already faces a high level of deforestation and the impact that storms have on areas where there is already severe deforestation. You have the pandemic, which has made matters worse. And on terms of the political uncertainty, you've had any political uncertainty has an impact on the ability of government to deliver basic services. And also when you have in cities demonstrations, political unrest, that has an impact on people's ability to access basic private services, shops, foods, and markets. It has an impact on farmers getting food to the market, especially when you're dealing with in countries, and there are other examples where you have where people really live on daily subsistence, where they earn money daily, they spend it daily to get what they need. So any disruption to the market, private or public, will have a negative impact. Brendan, say something so we can wave.
Hello, Steph. Can everyone hear me?
Yes. Just to note that tomorrow we will be briefing virtually as well from an undisclosed location. Call it whatever you want to call it, James Bays.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
We'll check with BCSS. Okay.